Hey guys, so today I have the China Glaze The Arrangement collection for spring 2019. I found these on the Sally's Beauty website. As far as I know, it's the only place that I can find them as of right now, January 31st. Well, I guess January 30th, because I haven't looked today. But as far as I know, it's the only place I can find them so far. There are 12 polishes here altogether. I know in the past, like 1 or 2 times, there have been Ulta exclusives for China Glaze collections, maybe only one time that I can think of, and that I want to say that was the summer collection last year. I haven't checked for that just because they're not on the Ulta website and I really want to get this video up. So if that happens, I'll grab it, I'll swatch it for Instagram or something. So 12 polishes here altogether, and I will get into the swatches. So the first polish is called Show 'Em Who's Blossom, and this is like a light, I want to call it a light sagey green, but it also like just doesn't look sagey to me. Like I feel like sage has a little bit of blue to it, just like the tiniest bit, or maybe a little bit of gray. It just doesn't seem to lean in that direction. It's almost like a pastel olive, which is really just me making stuff up. So this one is a little bit sheer on that first coat. It almost has a slightly, just slightly jelly feel to it. And there are a few polishes in this collection that have that feel. I can see nail line, but then I also have a few streaks. A lot of those streaks do level themselves out as it dries, but it's definitely not perfectly even. Good formula on this one. So this one does cover completely for me in 2 coats, but I can definitely see where depending on your application you will need 3 with this one. It's very, very close to having some streaks for me in 2. And this one does dry nice and shiny. So that is 2 coats of Show 'Em Who's Blossom. The next polish is called Is Ranunculus, and this is a kind of gray blue. It has a blue shimmer to it, and then also have these little tiny, you can kind of see them there, like the tiniest little silver specks. This one is pretty sheer on that first coat as well. This applies pretty well, but it is a little bit hard to keep from pooling on the sides of your nails, so I'm trying to like wipe the brush off a lot and go back and smooth everything out so it doesn't gather down here on the sides. The formula feels good, it just feels like it's going to move around on me. So this one does still have some streaks when I have that second coat on there. They're not super bad, but they're bad enough that I do want to add a third. And those little silver specks that are in there sparkle really nicely though. So this one does cover completely in 3 coats. And like I said, those little silver specks stand out really well. But the shimmer that's in there, the like slightly blue-green shimmer, you can see it, but it's definitely more subtle than it is in the bottle. And the whole polish does dry a little bit dull. So that is 3 coats of Is Ranunculus. The next polish is called Hydrangea Dangea. I don't know if it's supposed to be hydrangea. That's a flower, right? But there's no R in it. I don't know. Yeah, my label says Hydrangea Dangea, but the flower is hydrangea. And this is a very light baby blue with a very, very subtle, you can kind of see it on camera, silver shimmer. So this one is also a bit sheer on that first coat, but I can already see that shimmer on the nail. And it looks about the same as it does in the bottle, because it's pretty subtle in the bottle as well. This one is definitely running down the side of my nail and pooling there a little bit, so I'm going to try to thin these last couple of coats out. So this one is starting to build up on that second coat, but just like the last one, I have just a few dark spots that are just a little bit too much for me. And those will be a little bit worse when it dries as well, because it does seem to dry a little bit more sheer. I also checked the Sally's website where I ordered these, and it's listed on the Sally's website as Hydrangea. So the R is not in the label, but I'm guessing that was a mistake. Okay, so we're going to pretend that I didn't smudge that nail, and this does cover completely in 3 coats. The first coat had a little bit more time to dry because I was waiting for kitchen noises to stop before I turned my camera back on, and that one did dry dull, so you will want top coat. So that is 3 coats of Hydrangea Dangea. I'm just going to say it's supposed to have an R in it. The next polish is called Lavenduh, and this is a lavender shade with a very subtle silver shimmer. This one is also pretty sheer on that first coat, but it is very even. I'm trying to do a really thin coat because I don't want it to run down the sides of my nail at all, but it also doesn't look like it's trying to do that, so that's good. The formula on this one is just slightly thin. It's not so thin that it's hard to control, but it is noticeably a little bit different than the last ones. And so far on that first coat, I can see that shimmer if I look very, very closely, but I really have to look for it. I'm going to see if that builds up a little bit more once the color's a little bit more opaque. So this one does start to build up on that second coat. I'm going to take a good look at this one. So this one is good for me in 2 coats, but I can definitely see where you might need 3 depending on your application. It's very, very close to me needing 3. And after that second coat is on, I can say that I think the shimmer in here is so subtle that it's pretty much not there. So that is 2 coats of Lavenduh. So the next polish is called Good As Marigold, and this is a very bright, almost neon yellowy orange that's actually showing up very color accurate on camera, which never happens with neons. I'm guessing it's just because it's that yellowy orange shade that is showing up so well. This is a bit streaky on that first coat. I can definitely see where the streaks aren't showing up as well on camera though because of the color. Good formula on this one as well. So this one does cover completely for me in 2 coats, but it's definitely another one where you could need 3 just depending on your application. It does seem to dry just a little bit more sheer than it applies. And this does dry pretty shiny as well. So that is 2 coats of Good As Marigold. And the next polish is called Señora Flora, and this is a lighter kind of peachy-ish pink. So this is a slightly, very slightly jelly-ish, I guess more crelly polish. This does dry matte. It is a bit streaky on that first coat. I'm trying to move a little bit faster with it just because it's a matte polish, but in the last few collections that China Glaze has put mattes out, they have kind of fixed their formula a little bit so they don't dry so fast. They used to dry a little too fast, and now I think they're pretty good. And good formula on this one as well. So this one does start to build up in 2 coats. You can see that it does dry fully matte. I do still have, actually, it doesn't look like it. I want to let it dry completely before I call it. When I did my swatch pictures, I definitely needed 3 coats, but this is actually looking pretty good this time on 2. I am going to let it fully dry first though, in case it dries considerably more sheer on that second coat and some streaks pop up. So that actually looks pretty good in 2 coats. I do have a picture of this with top coat and without top coat. Just to be clear though, I did need 3 for my swatch pictures. I had some pretty bad streaks when I did this yesterday. So that is 2 coats of Señora Flora. The next polish is called Better Than Nectar, and this is this like peachy, pinky, orange, shimmery topper. And I do have pictures of this on its own in 3 coats, but I'm showing it in the video over Señora Flora. This one is pretty sheer on that first coat. This one is just a bit too sheer, I think, to wear on its own, but like I said, I did show you what that looks like. Good formula on this, and it applies really evenly, which is the important thing with toppers like this. So that is 1 coat of Better Than Nectar. The next polish is called There She Rose Again, and this is a bright pink jelly. And this is very jelly, so it is sheer on the first coat, very sheer. It doesn't feel like it wants to move around too much, which is nice. And pretty good formula on this as well. So this one is starting to build up a bit on that second coat, but obviously still pretty sheer. The color looks good, just can see my nail line a bit. And this does dry very shiny, most jellies do. So this one doesn't quite cover completely in 3 coats. I can still see a little bit of nail line in there. The color does build up pretty nicely. And again, it does dry very shiny. So that is 3 coats of There She Rose Again. The next polish is called Wildflower Hour, and this is a topper. It's in the very, very slightest pink tinted jelly base ever. It's not going to show pink at all. It's very, very, very slight. This has some really fine silver holographic glitter, and it also has a very, very fine silver flakes in it as well. I do have a picture of this on its own in 3 coats, but for the video I am showing this over There She Rose Again. This is another one that's also way too sparse, I think, to ever be its own polish, to be worn on its own. I mean, obviously you can do what you want, but you're not going to get it built up. And I do really like the combination of those silver flakes and that holographic glitter. It gives it a different look on the nail, but then in the sunlight, you still get a holographic sparkle. And everything is so fine in this that you're not going to have a difficult time removing it, and it's not going to dry textured. So that is 1 coat of Wildflower Hour. The next polish is called Still Beleaf, and this is like a greeny, gunmetal-y, slightly gold shade. It's very interesting. So this one is a bit sheer on that first coat. Very, very sparkly though, and not a lot of brush strokes through it because it's so sparkly. There are a few when it's wet, but those should go away when it dries. And a lot of times these kind of gunmetal-y metallic shades can run a little bit thick, but this one doesn't at all. So this one does cover completely in 2 coats. The second coat does deepen the color a little bit as well, and like I said, those brush strokes that were there, and they're, barely there to begin with, do go away after it's dry. You will want top coat for this. Polish dry is just a little bit dull, but it's not textured at all, and none of this is going to behave like a glitter. So that is 2 coats of I Still Beleaf. So the next polish is called What's Up Bittercup, and I looked at the Sally's website again to see if this was a typo, and it doesn't look like it is, which I guess makes sense because Buttercup should totally be yellow. Bittercup would be like dark and dingy like this, right? So I don't know. Anyway, this is a kind of liquidy bronze metallic. So this one actually covers pretty well on that first coat, just a little bit uneven. There are some brush strokes through that shimmer, so I'm going to try to make those as straight as possible. They're really not terrible. Good formula on this one. So this one does cover completely in 2 coats. And that second coat does deepen the color quite a bit, and most of those brush strokes did go away as it dried as well. And this one dries just slightly dull, so you will want top coat. So that is 2 coats of What's Up Bittercup. And the last polish is called Saved by the Bluebell, and this is this really dark blue shade. It almost looks like it has just a drop of green in it. I definitely wouldn't go as far as to call this teal, but it looks has just a drop. A little drop of green in it, which is actually not showing up on camera. It's looking way more blue on camera. So this one is also a little bit jelly-ish. I'm in quite a few jelly-ish or jelly-leaning crelly-ish polishes in this collection. So it is a bit sheer on that first coat. But as far as jellies go, I would say it's more saturated of a jelly than I'm used to seeing, so it should build up fine. I don't remember if I needed 2 or 3 coats for this one, but I think I only needed 2 for my pictures. Good formula on this as well. So this one does look pretty good on that second coat. I'm going to look at it a little bit closer just to make sure. I actually think I'm going to do a 3rd coat here. I really don't want to because I'm almost done with this video, but I can still see just a little bit too much nail line to stop at 2. But I think if you're not picky, you could get away with 2 coats. So this one does cover completely in 3 coats. It was pretty close in 2. I'm just being a bit picky, although I do feel like it gets just a little tiny bit darker on that 3rd coat. And because this is, I called it like jelly-ish earlier, but the more I look at it, the more I think it's pretty solidly jelly. So it does dry pretty shiny. So that is 3 coats of Saved by the Bluebell. So I actually think Show 'em Who's Blossom? Show 'em Who's Blossom is going to be my favorite out of this collection. This whole collection was kind of an unconventional spring collection, which I appreciate because I have, drawers overflowing with pastels because every year we get so many pastels. So this one almost looked like a weird mix to me of like a spring and a fall collection, and I really, really liked it. So I think Show 'em Who's Blossom is going to be my favorite. This is an olive green, but it's like, if there's such a thing as a pastel olive green, that's what this is. It's not super, super like spring-like, but it's still light enough to pass for a spring polish, if that makes sense. And I think I've mentioned before that fall colors are like my favorite colors out of the whole year. To swatch, to review, to wear, they're just my favorite. This has like fall vibes while still fitting into spring, so I really like this one. So that is the China Glaze Spring 2019 collection. Again, I found those on Sally's Beauty, on the Sally's Beauty website, but I would assume that they'll be popping up relatively soon. They've been on the Sally's website for like a week, which is weird because usually like it's a snowball kind of thing. Once one website gets them, they all start showing up, but hopefully relatively soon they'll be around. So hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will talk to you later. Bye.